I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting this morning. Those of you that would like to have a seat, I wish you would take one.
Some of them are signing up, Judge, to speak.
Do what?
Some of them are signing up to speak.
All right. It's important that you get here at time enough to sign up and not come in there till we start a meeting. If you want to speak, and we're feeling our way along on how we're going to handle these meetings. They're not going to be the same, but I'm not going to cut anybody off from speaking this morning, and probably will not for the next 2 or 3 or 4 meetings. But it's going to change on down the way, and it's very important that you be here on time and sign up for whatever you want to say if we do that. And if we don't, we'll do something else to take its place. I've talked about a great deal having work sessions, and I would expect to have at least 1 a week and maybe 2 a week. Work sessions that we would work for perhaps 3 hours or 2 hours and talk about business and give anybody that wants to speak an opportunity to do so to the court about any items of business that they may have or that the court may have. But I am thinking about conducting the business meetings without audience participation unless the court asks particular people to participate in the discussion. If you have a problem with that, talk to me. Be glad to talk to anybody about anything. I won't be always doing what you want me to do. So I've practiced law here 50 years. A lot of you know me from that. Many of you don't know me, but you will learn me, and we will together do good things, I hope, for Karnes County. Roll call. I really think it's dumb for the Commissioners Court to have roll call. I can look around and see that all the commissioners are here. There are 4 commissioners present. I'm present. I don't feel the need for them to tell me they're here. I'm going to declare that all the members of the court are present without a roll call this morning, and if that's a problem, we'll tend to it on down the way. If you're not satisfied with it, just be dissatisfied this morning, because that's what's going to happen. It's what's already happened. Ask that you stand for the opening prayer.
And remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and every day that you give us. We ask that you remind us that during these holidays, with the date of your birth, what we're to remember. Give us guidance as we make decisions for the county this day. And this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item of business is to item 5 on the special call meeting agenda. Discuss, approve, disapprove the 2015 Karnes County Resolution, the Indigent Defense Grant Program, allow the county judge to execute, and it's authored by Herb Hancock. Herb.
Judge, this is a request, and if I'm not speaking loud enough, I will use the microphone.
It's on.
This is a request by the Texas Indigent Defense Commission that the Commissioners Court enter into a resolution approving a grant for $20,000 to Karnes County for payment and cost of partial payment of the indigent defense, the lawyers that defend those accused of criminal offenses in county court. And we ask the court to approve that. It has to be approved today. It is a grant that's already been completed. It's in place. This is the last procedural part of that grant application. That's all I have.
Any questions by any of the board?
No.
This is an important thing to the county. You may not think it is because you may think that those people that can't pay for lawyers ought to just go to prison without having lawyers. It doesn't work that way. It's a very important part of our county government and the operation of the county. I've been involved in it for the 50 years I've practiced law here in Karnes County. Got paid sometimes it didn't worry me too much one way or another. But it's absolutely necessary to the operation of the criminal defense and criminal prosecution, both at the county level and at the district court level. This is not for the district court, this is county court level. And if anybody has a question, I'll allow you to ask it at this time about this particular program. Thank you. I'll ask for a vote in the Commissioners Court, all in favor of the,
Need a motion?
okay, I'll just do it without a motion. It would not be good then. We could come back this afternoon. All right.
I move that we approve the 2015 Karnes County Resolution for Indigent Defense Grant Program and allow the county judge to execute.
I'll second it.
All right, is there any discussion on it, on the court? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same. No one opposed, so the motion carried. Thank you, Herb. Are you up on the next one also?
Yes, sir.
All right, discuss, approve, disapprove amendment to contract with GEO to allow for expansion of the Immigration Detention Center, the ICE facility, authored by Herb Hancock and Shelby Dubnik.
Your Honor, just a little bit of history. This case was, this item was on the Commissioner's Court agenda when Judge Butler was still the judge. There was some discussion about increasing the size of the civil detention facility from about 600 beds to 1,100 beds. I think at that time, I was not here, but I was told that the item was tabled and that Judge Butler wanted the new county judge and the Commissioner's Court to address this issue again. I was present in a meeting with the representatives of the corporation, the Civil Defense Corporation, or Civil Detention Corporation, and they requested that we sign an extension of an agreement increasing the bed size from 626 to 1158. The determination or the thing that we decided at the meeting was that we would ask that this item be visited again by the Commissioner's Court and that the representatives of the corporation be present to present the request for the amendment. I will be available to answer any questions that have to do with the legal side of the extension of the agreement itself. And Shelby and I both put our names on the agreement, but on the posting, but we're here only to say to the Commissioner's Court, we ask that the Commissioner's Court as a whole visit this issue again and make a decision as to whether or not we should increase or we should sign off on this agreement to increase the size of the facility. Somebody from you want to do it? Okay. You want to come on? Judge, I'll ask the lady to introduce herself. I am terrible on names, and I would then stand back over here out of the way while we're going on. Okay?
The
Good morning,
microphone's
Judge,
on.
Commissioners. My name is Amber Martin. I'm the Executive Vice President for Contracts for the
Talk
Jail.
into the mic, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Amber Martin. I'm the Executive Vice President for Geo for Contracts. This amendment that we're asking you to review right now is an amendment to the existing contract that the county has with Immigration Customs Enforcement. In the agreement that you have with Immigration Customs Enforcement, you have a civil detention facility that has approximately 532 beds that are in use in a 600-bed facility. They want to expand it in accordance with the federal policies that they have now and expand it to the use of 1,158 beds. According to the contract that we have with the county, I know this is on a separate issue, we are asking that you also, expand that measurement. This is a federal policy that they are trying to house females and children until they can be able to release them or put them back where they came from. Right now you have hundreds and thousands of children and females coming across the borders that have no place to go, and this is what this facility is for. There's only 2 other facilities of this nature, so the Immigration Customs Enforcement would really like to expand this facility.
This facility right here, the expansion that you're gonna do, you're also gonna build it to be able to house men if this doesn't plan out?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If the mission changes, which, the federal government mission can change anytime, it will go back to what it was. It will house men. And that's what it was before.
What will the county get out of this?
You're going to actually get an administrative fee, about $100,000 a year, plus property taxes, which will increase because of the expansion. So far, right now, with the property taxes of the life of this contract, you have about $5.34 million, and this will obviously expand. You'll also get the continuing free beds that you've been getting at Karnes County Correctional Facility for House County inmates.
And when they get ready to release, will they release them here or take them somewhere else?
You take them someplace else. How would they be
Some of them they deport and then some of them they bond out. And by bonding out, I mean to a family or to a lawyer will pick them up for their
They're not
families.
just gonna open the door and turn them loose here?
No, sir.
And so the family has to support them. There's a lot of families that are up north, et cetera, that are, bringing these individuals in. There's families that are already here that are in different places. The lawyers bond them out or they're deported.
You said here meaning in Karnes County?
Those are unless there's a family here that's in Karnes County that they're going to be living with, and not as far as I know, we don't have.
Because that's a major concern right now is that a lot of the citizens that I've talked to, and I've talked to both sides of the fence, there are considerable families or people in Karnes County that welcome them to be housed somewhere. So, they have to go someplace, I understand. But the big concern is that when they're released into the county population, that the county will somehow absorb a bunch of costs, meaning medical, through schools, through whatever. And then before you know it, we have I guess what you call it, a haven here. I don't understand that totally, but that's been a question that's been addressed to me several times. And I have another question. Is that, and I asked this at the first hearing we had, but could GEO build this facility without the approval of the county? Could they go ahead and build it without the approval of the county?
Well, there's 2 points to that, and I'm sure Mr. Hancock can probably give you the legal aspect of it. We own the facility. Obviously, we can build, but we can't house anything in there because you have the contract with ICE. In accordance with our contract with you, it does have specific language in there that says that you won't deny contracts with the federal government because we have entered into a contract for you to be able to do that.
So the county contract with Hancock is with ICE itself here, or with GEO?
Okay, you have 2 contracts
One with you
and one with
GEO,
ICE. Yes,
and
sir.
one with ICE.
So obviously we wouldn't build anything unless we had some contracted envelope that the county has that ICE can be able to utilize, and ICE is not going to utilize it unless the county signs off on it. So I guess the answer to your question is no, we couldn't really conceivably build a facility or expand the facility without your approval.
Does one contract trump the other?
No, sir. I mean, you have two contracts. The contract you have with GEO specifically says that you will contract with other entities in order to house either inmates or federal detention or anything else in there.
Me and Commissioner Yao went out there and we took a tour of the facility out there, and it seemed fine. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. I looked at it and everything. I went over there, I looked at the women and the children there. I seen where the new expansion was going to be. But now there are some concerned citizens that came to me. I'm sure they came to the other commissioners. They're concerned about people getting released in like the hundreds all of a sudden into the community. They also said that, and I could be wrong, but they told me that in Arizona they were doing something like that, letting people out of the facility, like hundreds of them into the general public in the county that's in. Has that ever happened?
Those that facility in Arizona is run by ICE. It's in Artesia. It just opened up 2 months ago.
It's very difficult.
So what happened?
If you don't get that worked out, we can hear it.
That facility is in Arizona in Artesia, and it was just opened a couple of months ago. People are not being let out unless they're sponsored. So if you have families in Karnes County that are sponsoring people, I can't say that they wouldn't be let out in Karnes County.
That's what I understood when we went over there. Say, for an example, if there's an immigrant and they have a family member here in Karnes County, so they can be let out to that family member in Karnes County.
Yes, if it goes through the legal procedures, just like everything else does, as far as, where they can be sponsored. There's groups that are being sponsored. I can hear my son. There's people that are being sponsored all over the country. I mean, like I said, there's only 3 of these facilities, and they're very limited.
But there's just for the general public.
We're not letting hundreds out.
Never. Okay, and has that ever happened?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
Like I said, the only other facility before that was in Elizabeth, and it's still there. The only other family facility that's being run now, and it's been up and running for a while. They only have like 150 families in there, and then these other 2, Karnes and Artesia, and these have been open very limited. And no, you have not had mass releases into your community.
And these have women and children
Yes,
also.
sir. Yes, sir.
And the plans are to remain with the women and children. Only if something falls through, then it'll go back to the men.
Right. Yeah.
Will you still be able to staff with this other facility? I know that corrections in Texas is having a hard time staffing facilities from state to probably, I think it's what it's GEO. Will y'all be able to staff that facility and meet your contract?
Yes, sir. We have approximately 300 staff between the 2 facilities right now. That staff will increase probably by another 150. Yeah, close to 150. And we haven't had any issues with these federal contracts. They're good paying contracts, and they're good paying jobs for people. So we haven't had any issues staffing.
Another concern I've heard from county residents, both sides of the issue. Recently there was some allegations made by staff towards your residents, but who investigates any issues within your facility so the county didn't have to absorb their time and stuff? I mean, is it all in-house, which I assume it would be, or is the county sheriff going to have to spend time and labor, and if we do, can we get reimbursed for something like that?
Yes, sir. We indemnify the county completely with all legal costs, all legal fees. The $100,000 a year that we're proposing also helps them with administrative fees. As far as investigations are concerned, we have our own, what we call Office of Professional Responsibility, that we do investigations. The federal government does their own investigations. We have, in the correctional facility, the U.S. Marshals does their own investigations, so there's really no investigations. Now, I would say if there may be a death or something like that, then yeah, the sheriff would probably come out with in that case, because that's the law, that's Texas law. But as far as investigations and who absorbs all those costs, we would definitely do that. And if there was any services that we needed, fire or something like that, we again absorb those costs.
All right, this contract is for illegal immigrants, not criminals,
Correct.
not felons.
Yeah, this is children and mothers. There's no males.
All right, but you said that this could be changed to males, which is,
This facility is a very unique facility. It's called a civil detention facility. It's the new wave of immigration and customs enforcement where it's not a hardened prison. It's more, if you've been out there, it's more like a campus style. Before the women and children came out there, we did house men, non-criminal aliens, that were going through the same process as far as sponsorship, deportation, etc. All that would happen is if the policy, federal policy changed, and the females and children, we're trying to make sure that we're backing us up and the county up as far as jobs and, property taxes, then it would revert back to the original mission that was in, and that original mission's been around for 10 years.
all right, but did you say you were tying the 30-bed extension at the other facility, smaller facility, to the ICE facility? Is that correct? You said we would extend the 30-bed extensions if we had.
Oh, yeah, we're going to continue with
That would be
beds.
tied to the ICE facility?
No, it'd be, well, you have one contract.
One contract.
Right, you have one contract, and what's happened is the contract specifically speaks about the annex, which is the civil detention facility.
Or for how many years would this 30-bed extension be? As long as this operates?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've had it all along. In fact, we've used it, and it would continue to be used. That would never go away. And what Judge Butler asked us to do is reiterate that in this amendment, which is already in the contract, but we did reiterate it.
Going back to the criminal element, I'm sorry.
That's right.
If y'all receive anybody from the criminal element, what do y'all do with them? Y'all get them out of our county?
Yes, sir. What we do is we turn around and tell ICE that this person somehow got through the loop and not supposed to be here. They come and get them.
Okay.
And they put them in a different facility.
That's
As far as the detention facility.
That's even the women that are there too, right? If there's any women that are criminals, they come in with children or something, they use the facility.
They're screened prior.
Yeah, there's a heavy screen. I don't think we've had any incidents of that.
Okay.
Hold on, let's sure, you have some.
I have a question. Back to your investigations there at the residential center, can you just advise that y'all are going to do the investigations as far as something happens on the facility? Is that what you're saying?
ICE does, the federal government does.
The last time we met with the district attorney's office and an individual from the ICE facility, they were wanting for the DA's office to designate somebody from law enforcement to investigate. When I first went there and y'all did the walk through the facility, I remember asking if something happened on the facility, who was going to investigate, and the individual that was there strictly stated that ICE would do it. But now I know, if I'm not mistaken, the lady that's been talking to the district attorney's office is Glass, is that her last name?
Right.
She has been talking with the district attorney's office and wanting somebody from law enforcement designated to help investigate.
If ICE has been talking to you, unbeknownst to us, and they want somebody, ICE would pay for that.
The district attorney has formed a human trafficking and sexual assault and hired a special investigator, and they're asking us to dedicate our resources, including one of our full-time investigators, to do the investigations out there. So it's not ICE and it's not GEO that's doing that. They're mandating us to do it now. We had a series of meetings over the last 2 weeks with the district attorney and the ICE people and GEO people, and they're telling us that it's going to be our responsibility. I don't know who the DA met with. Somebody had a conference call with the GEO people.
I've
too.
received several emails from that individual. I can get back with y'all.
Yeah, would you please, either way, if there's a dedication to that facility and ICE doesn't pay for it, GEO will assume those costs, okay? Either way. Because, we need to look at what the administrative fees and how those are being utilized. But if ICE is mandating this, I have a meeting with ICE we have a federal quarterly meeting every quarter. And I will bring this up, so any information you can give me about who you're talking to, what GEO person you're talking to, because this is the first I've heard of it, then, we can get this straightened out if the county wants to do it. If the county doesn't want to do it, we can go normal procedures that we've been going.
The district attorney is telling us we have to do it. That's what they're telling us. So that's why they hired a special investigator, and they're going to devote 5 investigators out of the district one for each of the 5 counties, and they're going to form a special unit to do those.
This is for the.
They're drawing up the protocols.
This is for the trafficking issues?
Sexual assault and assaults in this facility and the facility y'all have over in the Dilly or wherever it's at?
Yeah.
Or,
I don't know that facility.
y'all have another facility where,
No, that's not.
okay, well anyway, they're forming it's kind of like a task force of 5 investigators and their own investigator. And they're,
Again, that's outside of what I know, and if the DA is working on this and ICE is working on this, I mean, if I can get you more information, if you get me more information, I can, find out what's going on and how we can, help offset the cost of
It's
this.
very easy to address. We're making them out of a molehill. The contract is an indemnification contract. We can enter into an agreement to pay for whatever they've got, whatever their costs are, and this agency can either agree or not agree to pay for the cost. And if they don't, then we can come back to the Commissioner's Court and address it in that way. But it's not a part of the extension at this time, but it can be, and that was one of the things we talked about in the meeting itself, is that there is that the district attorney is going off on what he wants to do, whether or not this is his idea or it is the idea of some governmental agency. Either way, the corporation under the contract is going to have to indemnify that, in my opinion, because they have signed, it's a pretty wide indemnification agreement.
So Amber, any costs associated with the sheriff's department having to do that would be over and above the $100,000 administrative fee, or that'd be part of the $100,000?
We have to see, without knowing the figures, without going through them, and without understanding what the administrative costs are right now, I hate to answer that, but either way, we get paid.
Judge, there's also going to be transportation costs involved in that also. The district attorney's telling us we're going to have to provide transportation for the victims as well as everybody to be moving around. So there's also going to be transportation costs involved.
There's a separate contract for transportation for these individuals, so I don't know why that would have to be. I really have to kind of get, like Mr. Hancock says, the details from you so we could, go through this a little bit further so I can understand and we can maybe bring this back, this issue.
All you need to do is to tell us what the problem is, and we'll try to fix it with the Commissioner's Court. That's the place that it needs to be addressed.
I don't understand starting this without having a full understanding of who's responsible for what. And I do not like hearing that the DA has said that we've got to do this in connection with a contract that the DA doesn't have anything to do with.
That's right. That's a part that concerns me right now, but when we had the meeting, we addressed the investigative side of it. And
With the DA, not with the DA.
No, with this representative here. And
Do we have something in writing, Herb, that reflects that?
No, we do not.
Well, then we need something in writing that reflects it.
That is exactly right. You're right on point, Judge.
Well, your contract indemnifies you now.
Yes,
And are you satisfied, Herb, that he does that?
I think the contract indemnifies the county for all expenses. That's my, it is a very broad, strict indemnification agreement. And it's one of the best ones I have read in some time and been a part of.
And this has never come up to this point
Not to my
with the
knowledge.
people that have been out in this facility?
Not to my knowledge. This is the first I've heard about the district attorney becoming involved in the investigation. It is a federal institution for all practical purposes, and the individuals that are there belong to the federal government in all practical speaking. So the investigation is kind of like being in the federal correctional facility. We don't go in there.
Where we may all be if we don't do this properly.
That's exactly right. But that's my primary concern is that we address all of these issues. Now's the time to do it. I'm sorry that the district attorney sends word to us. That's okay. We can address that also. But
Have you had any contact personally with the DA?
I've talked to him. You are hearing with me the concerns. And that is, okay, we can address it. We just need to do it with a written agreement as the court has indicated. And we can do that.
Well, I'm not sure at the beck and call of the district attorney.
Well, I will be at the beck and call of the district attorney or anybody if it has to do with the legal side of it and keeping the county from being subject to any kind of expense as a result of this facility. But this facility and this contract of indemnification is pretty well covers everything that you can imagine. It is run by and owned by that corporation, and we have no benefit from it other than the $100,000 in the administration of the fee and the taxes that's on it. But it's a heck of an indemnification.
Has any member of the court seen the contract?
No, right.
I looked at it a little bit. Of course, I don't understand no contract. I was gonna ask her to address that one section in the letter you received from the GOs, Jaworski and Jaworski, or Fulbright Jaworski.
The legal opinion,
They referenced a certain section
3.04.
yeah, and I was gonna, for the public's comment, explain what that section said.
There is a section in the agreement that basically sets out that if there's a contest of any kind between the county and the corporation over the contract, we lose our qualified immunity issues, and we very well could get, if we go to the courthouse, we could go to the courthouse like any other individual, not as a county. And the indemnification agreements that they've got, I don't know where they would go at that point. But if we get into a contest over this contract and the failure to expand it, then we could go get into a contract. They could sue us on a specific performance type lawsuit that we could wind up having to deal with these specific issues, and we would lose our qualified immunity status if we get into that type of lawsuit. Is that what you understand?
Yes, sir, it would be referred to as a breach of contract.
It's
Not
a-
that we want to do that, we've been partners with Karnes Karnes since 1998, and that's the last thing we want to do, and not that I would say we would do it. I just, we entered into this contract with Karnes in good faith, that, we were going to do some some economical issues and profit from us also. We're not a non-profit organization, and that we would work together as partners, and Karnes would benefit and Jill would benefit. So there is a very specific breach of contract in the contract.
Judge, there's one other issue that is not on the agenda itself, but it has to do with the $100,000 that was, I don't know if it was agreed between the corporation and Judge Butler or not as far as administrative fees are concerned, but that agreement has not been signed at this time. And the $100,000 is an offer that's made by the corporation to the county to cover the administrative cost of administering part of the billing process that the county is faced with.
Well, you're just saying that it's not written in blood at this point?
That is correct.
That we can still negotiate?
You still can negotiate on that. That's left up. But if you negotiate, Judge, I ask the Commissioner Court to designate one or more individuals from the court as to be as a representative, and we'd be able to sit down and talk. Is that basically what you understand at this time?
Commissioner Rosales, were you on the court at the time when you were on the court for a while?
In 98?
98 or after that, prior, were you?
2001.
Did you do, remember the contract for the ICE facility or whatever it was?
No, I came in 2001 and y'all started in 98.
Yes, sir.
Judge Belloc was the county judge at the time.
That was for the criminal side, not the ICE facility.
Again, you have one
The
contract.
original contract was with Alfred Belloc.
Yeah. You have one contract and it expands from
Not
Karnes to.
not with
Karnes
the
to
ICE
just-
project. Alger Kendall was strictly by himself on the ICE project. He worked with the federal government for a year and a half. He stated that when he announced that the ICE, it was a done deal. I'm sure it's in our minutes, but he negotiated that. He worked with the federal government, and that's what he stated in court.
I'm not sure how that would, but like I said, you have one contract that encompasses both facilities. The contract includes the 600-bed annex expansion, and the contract overall deals with any federal government, state entity, or county entity.
Herb, is that a correct description of the contract? What's in the contract?
It was modified somewhat in Alger's administration, but the original contract started with Judge Bell.
Any other questions from?
Is there any end to this contract, this open-ended contract?
Yes, sir, it is.
When is it?
So if we don't have if you don't have a contract with another entity, you don't have a contract with another entity, then it can be dissolved that way.
It has a 20-year
30
term on
years.
it, or
30.
30 years.
30 years.
I didn't look at that, but it's either 20 or 30-year term on it.
It is 30 years.
From 1998.
When it was extended in 2010, that was not changed. 30 years and 90
The
days.
30 years was the original contract.
That's never been changed,
It's been modified a number of times.
but the term hasn't been changed.
Just out of curiosity, was this facility offered to any other community or any other county?
This facility, no, because of the way the facility is and the structure, that the federal government really wanted to model everything after this facility. Yes, sir. This is their pilot prime project that they want to model everything after as far as this type of facility.
So I guess my right question is, for the expansion, was there any other community asked to maybe host this expansion?
No, sir.
So the 30 beds do go on from now.
Forever.
Forever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you need more.
Herb, I'm going to ask the court to come in Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock for a work session on this item at this point. And there might be other items added to it that the commissioners can add items if they choose. I would anticipate that we would be here a couple of hours perhaps, or maybe 3 hours, and discuss this more than we have. I would like to see the contract. I haven't seen it. I'm not the county's lawyer, I'm their county judge. And Herb, at this point, you are their lawyer, or we're treating you as if you were. And if you feel any necessity, we need to resolve this, get it resolved in a way that satisfies both the operator and the county. And that should be able to be done without, seems to me, any big deal. It is a big deal, but this is something we ought to.
Maybe we could ask that the district attorney or somebody from his staff show up at that meeting and talk to us.
Well, if he has taken part in this in some way that nobody here seems to know about, we need to have some contact with him.
If we're going to
People running our business that don't have anything to do with it, that's not the way it ought to work.
I don't know whether he has anything to do with it or not. He is the person in charge of the criminal prosecution in Karnes County.
Well, he's in charge of it at the district court level. He's not at the county court level. He's not in charge of the prosecution.
And he's not in charge in the federal level.
No.
I don't think anybody's in charge there. Here.
we're not gonna get it, we're not gonna get into
I
a
apologize.
countywide discussion on this morning.
Judge Long, in the beginning, we had several people sign up, people of the public who wanted to speak against the issue.
Against this issue.
Yes, sir.
I didn't set any guidelines, and I would go ahead and did we have a minute,
There were just several people who signed up. Do you want to go just down the list or just have?
yeah, but is there a minute,
3 minutes.
3 minutes on it? Okay, well, just call them up and we'll listen to it. And, let's get that over with.
Sophia Cassini?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners, for hearing me.
Will you tell us who you are and where you live and who you represent, if anybody?
I will. My name is Sophia Cassini. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm standing before you as the former director of both a refugee agency, which helped women and children escaping violence from their countries, and the former director of a child development agency, which worked with mothers and very young children, the same age as those that you're trying to help here in Karnes. I worked with them on parenting and on helping with the child's growth. I also stand before you as a volunteer who's been visiting the Hutto Detention Center and as a child of immigrants who has experienced myself with my own family in detention. So some understanding of what you're trying to do to help these women and children, which I absolutely applaud. When members of your community are talking to you about expanding the facilities to help, I understand where they're coming from because this is the work I've done for my whole life. I stand before you because I do believe that they need a solution, but I don't believe that family detention is the right solution for young children. I have worked with children for years, running the refugee agency and the child development center. And even when conditions are optimal, even when you create the kind of environment you have where you're trying to put teachers, improve the healthcare system inside of the detention center and make it the optimal conditions, still, children inside of a detention center, the kind of emotional disturbance that creates for them for the rest of their lives and the kind of impact that has internally has been proven by different studies when people went to visit the Hutto Detention Center, which was eventually shut down, and by other child psychologists who work with children and who understand how detrimental that is to their well-being. So I stand before you urging you, yes, we do need a solution to the crisis at our borders, but there are other solutions, such as people being housed within nonprofits. There are nonprofits existing that will house the women and the children. They can also go to family community members where they have a way of tagging them where they won't be out of range. You can find where they are. They do show up to their court dates. There are ways to do it which are less expensive for the community and which are just much better for the welfare of the children and the mothers. And like I said, as someone whose own father was in detention and went to visit him there, it's not a place for children. No matter how nice you make it, and I know you're really trying to do what's best for these kids and these mothers, it's not a place for children. And I just want to appeal to the community members to understand that. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Paul Pfeiffer?
Just to follow up with that, yeah, I truly speak to the humanitarian.
What's your
Paul
name?
Pfeiffer? Paul Pfeiffer. So indeed, to speak to the humanitarian question here, why are we?
Where are you from?
I'm from Karnes City, Texas.
How long have you lived here?
My life.
Okay.
So going back to the humanitarian question, why are we locking up women and children? I know that Judge Butler referred to, well, these things happen at the federal level and we don't have a say over it. But I think indeed we do have a say. This is a democracy. And we can certainly speak to what happens in our county when these facilities were brought in, it was under the umbrella of the other prisons that came into the county at about the same time, and at that time they were housing single men. The Obama administration single-handedly has began to incarcerate women and children in the help to protect them and to do something with them while we're processing these massive amounts of numbers. The people who are coming across, about 85% of them have family contact in the states that they're trying to get to. And before this administration, we did not see imprisonment of families like this. So I'm just kind of wondering, why are we doing it? If we look at the amount of money that GO would reimburse the county, the $100,000, I know that based on the taxes that I've had to pay this year, that I think that that is a token amount, if we're looking at it as a means to support our budget or to help pay for the increase in the county employees' wages that are going to be going up. I see it kind of a minimal amount and a bit of a token. I realize it's a quandary for you guys because it's difficult to work with a contract that you guys you didn't have experience in designing the contract or what it's there for, but I think it's really something that we need to look at as humans and what are we doing to our fellow humans and how does that work for us. And indeed, there have been requests to house families in Karnes County, and there are other families that I know of who have offered their homes up to house people if they are released here. But once again, most of these families are attempting to come to the United States because they know people here. The government doesn't need to take care of them. And why the government's paying groups like GO and Correctional Centers of America $300 a day, which is a fact you can look up for each of these people to stay in these private prisons, is another question we need to talk to. Why are our taxpayers giving this money to private corporations, and then how does it come back into the community? As we know, a lot of the staff commute into the prisons that we have in Karnes County. So again, it doesn't speak to our fellow county members who are making any money off the payrolls. We can get a token amount from GO in regards to this $100,000, but I just wonder, what is
Your time is up.
What is the good point here?
Your time is up.
Thank you, sir.
Christina Parker.
That means you need to put the mic down.
I was waiting for the feedback, Your Honor. I apologize.
Hi all, my name is Christina Parker. I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm here representing Grassroots Leadership and Texans United for Families. Grassroots Leadership is an organization that does research on private prisons, and I brought, if you'll allow me, a report that we've put together about the track record of some of these places. One thing I'd like to point out is there's been a lot of talk about the sexual abuse at Karnes. Those allegations came out less than 2 months after the facility was open. So we can assume that sexual abuse began there from day one, right? I think there's a very serious question here about the fact that these places aren't licensed, and I think that as you talk to the district attorney or county attorney and others, you should ask them the very serious question about whether the county will be liable for any of the investigations. I think the sheriff brought up a very good point about costs, but will you be liable for anything else? I've also brought the written testimony of 2 people who couldn't be here today. One is Lynette Arnold. She is a graduate student in Santa Barbara, California, and she's been visiting the Karnes Detention Center at great cost and coming at great length, and I've brought a copy of her written testimony for y'all. I've also brought the written testimony of Ruth, let me get this right, Ruth Ellswood, a child psychologist who can testify to some of the things that Sophia brought up about the detriment that this has for children. I'll also leave you with this report. It details what the kind of abuses that happen in GO facilities. These include the use of retaliation and the use of solitary confinement to punish people for speaking out against their abuses. The GO company has been, in fact, the subject of several hunger strikes within their facilities to protest the bad treatment. This has happened several times this year over several facilities, so you should know about that. You should also know that particularly when they're dealing with vulnerable populations like children, immigrants, and women, the GO company routinely sees these sexual abuse and other kind of abuse cases. It should be no surprise to anyone if you look into the history of this company, what happens in those facilities, and that's all detailed, very well researched and well sourced in here. So I'll leave this with y'all. And I'd just like to say that this isn't a company you want to be dealing with. They're probably not going to go to bat for you when these things happen. Yeah, thank you very much. Can I leave these with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Jonathan Ryan.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Jonathan Ryan. I'm an immigration attorney. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I'm the executive director of RAICES, which is the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services. I've been an immigration practitioner in detention settings for over 10 years. And I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to consider this matter deliberately and in this open forum, particularly on this day that we're following the Thanksgiving holiday, when we celebrate and remember.
Excuse me a minute, it would be helpful if you just speak to us about what we're talking about. We don't care about the things or...
We're talking about how we welcome immigrants just like we were welcome and our forefathers were welcome many years ago, and how we treat that is...
Our forefathers were immigrants.
They were refugees. And
they were immigrants.
And I've worked in this setting, and I've worked with people similarly situated to these women, including many of these women. And we have made findings that a majority of them are refugees, and we represent many of these women. We have had successes in the immigration courts where they have found that they are refugees. And as we consider this issue, I think that we should consider the effects that this will have on our history. I just want to visit a few of the issues that were brought up this morning, because I think release is a big issue in terms of how release is affected from the detention centers. I don't believe that there are any officials from Immigration Customs Enforcement here or from the EOIR, the Immigration Court. These are the government bodies that make the determinations. The Immigration Court sets bond. Immigration Customs and Enforcement affects the release. If an immigration judge has ordered a bond or ICE has ordered release, that is what happens. No matter what GEO says, once that person's been ordered released, they must release that person. They do have a bus that can take people to San Antonio, but if someone doesn't want to get onto that bus, they cannot force them. They're not in custody. So yes, people can be turned out. I just did a quick Google search here. I don't get very good reception, but just doing a Google search, ICE mass release, brings up many, many articles. New York Times, February 26, mass release of immigrants is tied to impending financial cuts. USA Today, March of 2014, officials silent on mass release of detainees. So we have worked with many families in this community who are going to be facing long immigration court processes in San Antonio. They could be waiting months or years for their final adjudication. We're working with families here in the community who are willing to accept and house and welcome these families here. We've been in touch with the community resources such as schools, and we have identified there are needs in this community associated with bilingual education for the families that will be living here as they continue to fight their cases. We alone represent about 40 families at RAICES. We're working with a wide network of families here in this community who are willing to work with these families and house them over the long duration of their immigration court cases, which right now are being suspended in some cases indefinitely. And these are people who are going to be living in our community, and they're going to require access to bilingual services. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Lopez.
Hello, thank you. My name is Rebecca Lopez. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I've come just by myself from an individual who's been volunteering my time and energy with the Karnes prison, as well as down on the border in McAllen, where the women are coming in there and being released before they go to Karnes. So I've been able to see this cycle through. The woman from GEO speaking about using words such as house and campus style. This is not what is being described when I speak to these women once they are released from Karnes. I know that Commissioner Rosales, you said that you visited the campus, but I'm not sure if you actually spoke to them. So women are telling me that they're being denied formula for their children, being denied diapers. So this is an inhumane treatment of these women and these prisons, and I'm sure this is not something that you want on your conscience. And heaven forbid that something would happen to us, and our women and children from this country had to go somewhere and they got treated the way we are treating these women and children. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marissa Bombada.
Good morning. My name is Marisa Bono. I'm the staff attorney with MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund in San Antonio. Thank you for receiving my testimony today. I'd like to provide you a brief, very brief history of family detention practices by the Obama administration that I think do touch on this community, and perhaps more importantly, to advise this commission on some of the egregious allegations of sexual abuse against Karnes facility staff with the women who are detained there. And I do think that these allegations have, and similar allegations, have implications for the resources of local law enforcement, which I'll detail in just a moment, and I know came up in our discussion earlier today. These allegations not only threaten the families who fled violence and sexual assault in their home country, but they've also caused Karnes to be the subject of harsh criticism both in Texas and the United States. We were just talking about Google, and if you do a Google search of the Karnes detention facility, you will come up with many news articles about the allegations of sexual assault and also the problems with conditions within the facility that Rebecca just mentioned. Obviously, the Commission couldn't have expected this outcome before, but now it has the benefit of hindsight and can further avoid harm to the Karnes community by denying an expansion of the current residential center contracted with the Obama administration. So like I mentioned, family detention is not the status quo in our immigration system, and it's actually a relatively new phenomenon. In 2009, amid intense public pressure and a federal lawsuit alleging human rights abuses against the Don T. Hutto Center in Taylor, Texas, the Obama administration ended family detention at that facility and announced that no new facilities would be open. I should mention that the county was a defendant in that lawsuit and had to cover the costs of its own defense. There was no indemnification from the local contractor there. The Obama administration reversed course this past July and began setting up detention centers, including Karnes. And these are centers that are specifically for women and children ages 17 and younger, starting with the facility in Artesia that was mentioned earlier. But given the speed with which the facility was established and the fact that standards are virtually without precedent in the United States, it's not surprising that almost immediately there were reports of human rights abuses and problems with conditions, and immediately a group of civil rights organizations filed a federal lawsuit in August. And now the federal government is closing that center, and those women are going to be moved to Karnes and to Dilley.
Thank you.
Maurice Jordan.
Good morning. My name is Maurice Carter, retired Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Army. And for those of you that are so passionate about immigrants, I am also an immigrant. I came from fascist Italy, and it's as bad as it gets. And I immigrated to the United States with my mother and my sister. But the one thing that differs between me and the people that are housed in the ICE facility is I came here legally. I didn't have to cross the border with a coyote. I would ask the Commissioner's Court put this subject, or table this subject, until you can schedule a public meeting for all of the citizens of Karnes County that wish to attend. We represent a very small portion of that community, but I can assure you the people that I've talked to, and I've talked to many in this county, do not agree with ICE and their $100,000. Trust me, we don't need it. We don't need their taxes. We're in a position right now where we don't have to go begging for money. I would ask that the Commissioner's Court visit this very carefully and give the people of this county an opportunity to say something. I think we also need to invite the Attorney General's office, because there will be a cost, and it's either going to be paid for by the county, by Karnes County, or it's going to be paid for by the state of Texas. I swore to uphold the Constitution and defend that Constitution. In 1969, I do that to this day. I can assure you that these people here that are sitting here from GEO, the only thing they have at risk is nothing. And And they're here for one thing. They're going to make a lot of money. And they're going to make it at our expense. And they could care about Karnes County. This is all smokescreens. So I would ask that the Commissioners Court plan a meeting with the community, one of the high school auditoriums, and get the input from everybody that wishes to attend and voice their opinion. And I don't think it's going to be favorable to Geo, and if they want to sue us, come and get some. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Reverend Kelly Allen.
My name is Reverend Kelly Allen. I'm the pastor at University Presbyterian Church in San Antonio, and I chair an interfaith organization that includes folks from this county, but predominantly from the San Antonio community, churches, social service organizations, over 100 involved. Our role is to provide visitation services to the Karnes detention facility and to support families when they are released and dropped at the bus station. You may not know, but part of the aspect of the release of those women and children who've been detained is when they are brought to the Greyhound station. They are in the clothes that they arrived across the border that have not been washed. If they have children, they have not been provided diapers. They do not have cash for a sandwich on the road. They have a small bag of a sandwich and a drink with them. So we are attempting to provide some support services for them as they get on their way to their destination of family members across the country. We see this, and we continue to gather every 2 weeks and build a strong volunteer coalition. We see this as a moral issue. When the Geo facility was first constructed here, it was constructed for the purpose of housing adults, and now the mission has changed, and it strikes me that perhaps the purpose for which the contract was entered into is vastly different than the original contract. All the major faith groups, Lutheran Church, Presbyterian Church, Catholic Church, many Baptist organizations have come out with statements opposing family detention, putting children and women many of whom have been severely abused, raped, children trying to save their sons and daughters from gang activity in Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, and they are put in this place where it is very hard to access services, psychological services, support services, educational services, and the healing services that they need that they could access in a community-based setting that is proven to also monitor people for court. If the purpose of detention is to assure that people arrive in court, which it is not supposed to be punitive, but it is a prison. It is against international as well as national law to incarcerate children in detention facilities. And so there are so many arguments against operating a facility like this, and there is no way under the best of circumstances to do it well. The staff are not trained in child care.
3 minutes to keep it.
Thank you very much.
Selena Moreno.
Thank you. My name is Selena Moreno. I'm a civil rights attorney in San Antonio. I appreciate the opportunity. I just want to say that despite the conditions at Artesia, New Mexico, that was mentioned earlier, Karnes was still open here in this city. And somebody in the audience said that, it referred to the facility and Karnes County as a guinea pig. And I think that here that's very appropriate given the experimental nature of what's going on in that facility. It was opened as you know, in August and houses over 400 mothers and children, most of whom fled persecution from Central America and are now seeking asylum here. And so even though Karnes just opened, we've already received and documented a number of serious issues that have been detailed here. And I'd like to provide some copies, if that's okay,
of complaint letters that further detail those issues. Some of the attorneys ultimately sent these complaints to the federal government, and the abuse allegations cited in them include the exploitation of very vulnerable women by the guards, as it's been described. And so just a couple of examples: removing female detainees from their cells late in the evening and early morning hours for the purpose of engaging in sexual acts in various parts of the facility and attempting to cover up these actions. Calling detainees their girlfriends and requesting sexual favors from female detainees in exchange for money, promises of assistance while pending immigration cases, and shelter when they are released, and groping female detainees in front of other women and their children. The Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA, makes it illegal for detention center guards and staff to engage in any sexual contact with detainees. But based on the response we've received so far, we saw various serious concerns that PREA is not being properly implemented in the center. And the federal government, federal law actually requires allegations of sexual abuse to be referred to local law enforcement, which is why you're probably seeing the sheriff and the AG directing the sheriff's office the way that it is doing. So I just want to, the bottom line is this is why family detention does not work. We're putting women and children at risk, and that can't be the norm for this community. But instead of pausing, GEO is here pushing for expansion. So we just urge this court, with so much at stake for the reputation of the Karnes community, we just urge you to deny expansion, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here today and speak before you. And I'll provide these copies of the complaints. Thank you very much.
That's all good for me.
Any of the court have anything else regarding this matter? Well, whatever the court wants. Is there any action that any member of the court wants to take on this item?
Well, I make a motion we disapprove this item 6 as it's written.
Is there a second?
I don't know about disapproval, but I would say that we would have to look into the matter more, given everything that everybody's given us today and all the information that y'all given us. And I know we did go, me and Commissioner Yao, we were in a vicinity, and these were some of the questions that we asked and everything, and they were pretty clarified to us, and I thought everything was fine. And not saying that it's not fine, but I would like to look into it more, given all the information and these people that are telling us all this. I would like to read all of this, find out about this, do my own Google research on this, and just kind of what really concerns me is if there's any kind of sexual acts in there, and I understand that's always going to happen everywhere, but I'm really not happy if it would be happening here at this facility. And I would just, either way it's going to go, I would really, really like to be more careful with that, if that is what's happening there, just to be more careful, because these women have already gone through enough, and they don't have to be used even further by some guy. So, I don't know, I wouldn't vote to disapprove it yet, as of yet, but I would vote to, I would just go ahead and table it. There's a motion already on the table, I'm not trying to knock down his motion, but I'm just giving you all the way I feel about it. I would like to do more research on it and do a work study like the judge said.
There's been no second to the motion. Is there any further action to be taken? Is there a second? If not, the motion fails for lack of a second. I'm going to schedule a workshop for Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock here in the courtroom. This will be a workshop meeting. Everybody's welcome to come to it. There'll only be discussion of items that are on the agenda. And this will be one item that will be on the agenda. There may be others, so that we can discuss and not take action on Wednesday morning at the discussion.
Do you plan to put this on the agenda for December the 9th after the work?
Hadn't made any plans that far ahead at this point until we discuss this fully. Yes.
You're gonna have a forum in 72 hours, so I would suggest Wednesday afternoon for the workshop.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Because it has to be posted for 72 hours, sir, so Wednesday morning.
Okay, if we have to post it, then we'll say it Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
What time?
It has to be Thursday.
And
Or Thursday morning, sir.
Thursday morning?
Thursday morning, it has to be Thursday, it can't be Wednesday.
Yes, sir. I would suggest Thursday morning.
Thursday morning's all right with me, it's 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Thursday morning, with y'all.
That's fine.
Schedule it 9 o'clock Thursday morning. Sheriff, will you have somebody here?
Yes, sir. I will be here.
Thank you.
Can you ask the district attorney some questions?
Absolutely.
Would be nice if he would. Any other comments? That'll be the action taken on this matter. Next item on the agenda is item 8. Discuss, approve, disapprove a maintenance proposal of the HVAC system at 210 West Calvert Street, Karnes City, Texas, for Byron Mechanical, which includes service and maintenance of all heating and air conditioning equipment in the new annex building. That's this building, I believe. I'm not sure what we're calling it still. It's not new anymore. The annual cost will be $6,800. Repairs and replacement of parts not included in maintenance will be billed at a reduced rate. If we have a maintenance contract authored by PTR or PQ, discuss that a little.
Yes, we have retained our chemical from San Antonio to find out and service our units. We've done quite a bit, made quite a bit of progress in the last 4 months. They're billing this as time and material, and I don't know exactly what the amounts have been. We'll ask Zane to address that, but we've looked at it, and what they propose to do is provide regular service and do all these things that they've been doing on a regular service schedule. And if they're scheduled regularly, we should see some reduction in the cost. We do need to maintain this equipment in here. So I will let Zane explain any further. Is Zane still here?
He left, he had a call.
Okay, he left. Anyway, quite a bit of the stuff they're doing will be covered under maintenance, and it needs to be maintained. We did have a price from local people, Rocky and Jason from Kennedy, R&J Air Conditioning, and their price, I think, was about $8,900, but they're not familiar with this brand of equipment, so they were learning. So we feel like this is a good price to get it serviced for a year for $6,800 plus whatever material costs they have.
So
Because
what
expenses would be much larger than that.
what is included in service and maintenance?
Replace and clean air filters. Adjust belts. Change as needed. Check condenser and evaporator coil conditions and clean condenser coils. Check safety devices. Read all motor bearings and lube points and factory specs. Check all temperature control. Check compressor oil. Check voltage and amps. Unclog condensate drains and clean condensate drain pan. Check operation of condenser fan. Check refrigerant levels, low suction and discharge pressure. Make sure all access panels cover are in place and secure. Clean and adjust thermostats. Check operation through controlled sequence. Heating inspection. Inspect burners for proper operation. Measure volts, drop access fan, motor control. measure temperature rise across the coil, clean heat exchanger surfaces, lower blades, and air passes. Check and adjust if necessary to pilot burner flame. Check all safety operations. Clean and adjust thermostats. Check operation through controlled sequence. Check all cranks, case heaters for proper operation. Check the heating coil and clean if needed. Check wiring and amperage of heat strip if heat is electric. Belts and materials says our program includes all maintenance materials, gaskets, oil, and lubricants required to perform these inspections, testing procedures. Also include is belt replacements if they are found to be worn or broken. Air filter maintenance. Included in your program are air filter changes, cleaning. Wire mechanics will provide the labor, materials, and disposal of the used filters. That is a brief description. There's quite a few pages here.
There's 2 inspections per year, one in spring and one in fall.
Does that give you an idea?
You've got a copy of that?
Yes, Tracy just gave me his.
All right.
All right, I feel like it, these people have proven that they know how this equipment operates, this brand of equipment operates, and I think we should take his proposal and have him on a regular scheduled basis to come down instead of calling.
Just for the record, to date, we have paid Fire Mechanical $2,430.75.
In a period of how long?
The first invoice was for maintenance on the air conditioner unit in the judge's office, and the other is for the inspection of the AC system of this building.
When? What's the date?
I don't know the exact date on the invoices. It's been within the last 6 months, I would think. Let me ask Gina what the date is.
I don't know if they've replaced the filters on half of them. I'm sure it's not half of them yet. I don't know exactly how many, which name is here to tell us.
We can reschedule this item for our workshop meeting if we're going to have, it can be an action item at that meeting.
Does the county attorney have to review this
course?
Has
I don't know whether he has or not in here. Is he out there?
Yes, sir, he's here.
Has it been provided to him?
I don't have any idea who's provided what to him.
You want her?
Both.
Yeah.
You went to his office, you can get him for you.
Let's just table it until.
No action.
take no action.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what? Did somebody say something?
Zane's here, but if you want to ask any questions, now y'all can table it.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay.
Item 9 on the agenda. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were reading.
I can read and listen.
What I'm here for today is
Mike,
what I'm here to,
it should be on.
can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me?
No.
Red light got to be on.
Press the button.
It's blinking.
Hold it again.
Can you hear me? Now can you? All right, what we're here today for is the expenditures, the revenues and expenditures of the TERS money. What we have is $8,160,377.58, and the way it's estimated to go is you got $1 million as far as the contractor's equipment assistance. That's with the mixers, maintainers, whatever we need with operating. 2014-15 Silco program, that's $1,937,200. County Road 211, estimated rehab cost $2,450,000. Limestone, estimated cost is gonna be $2,773,177.58. And that's with the TERS money. Contractors is with the balance of the money. County Road 277, the bridge replacement, which has been awarded to Liska Construction already. County Road 326, San Antonio River, the pilot encapsulation. The estimated cost is $225,000. The equipment, which has already been purchased and everything, is $1,093,01.05. And then the limestone base.
Wait, you're gonna say them right. It's $1,093,001, you said 01.
Okay, 001.05. Limestone base, $2,632,109.19. Equipment rental, about $100,000 in there. And then your Senate Bill 1747, which is $7,700,000. And with all these estimates are road material, freight, contractor, equipment, line item, it comes out to $19,985,983.55.
So Mike, the $1 million in equipment, million plus $1,093,001.05, that's what's already been approved by court?
Yes, that's already been approved by court and the equipment has been ordered. And also the County Road 277 bridge has been approved by court and that's already been awarded.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Item 10 on the agenda.
We need to take action on that item, on the approval of the C-TERS.
I'll make the motion to approve number 9 as presented.
I'll second.
That has already been approved.
The bulk amount was in the budget, but the individual items were not.
I disagree.
Okay, item number 10 is the Karnes County proposed holidays for 2015. I modeled the listing provided to y'all based on our current holidays. The only difference is at Christmas, we would not have 3 days off due to how the holiday falls. It would only be the 24th, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day, the 25th.
Anybody have any questions?
No, the only difference.
Well, Judge, again, I did last year and I'll say it again this year. I think the half a day for the Thanksgiving holiday on the 25th is, I don't think that people need, a lot of people are working that day. Some people need to take care of county business. I don't know about Columbus Day, and I really don't care about President's Day. Those 3 days, to me, I mean, you can cut it, whittle it down, but that's my system. I know some days, some of these holidays, some of the state people are working, some of the city people are working, but the county seems to be closed. Again, that's just me.
Any other comments?
I agree.
Motion?
I'm fine the way they are. Somebody has a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion that we said that we.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to present holidays that we strike February 16th, October 12th, and that half a day of Thanksgiving off the scheduled holiday for 2015.
I'll second.
Is February 16th a federal holiday?
I don't know.
I believe it is.
Well, if it is, if it's a federal holiday, I mean, that's fine, but I just, Columbus Day is not a federal holiday.
The only issue that I have is there will be no mail delivery and there's no bank services that day. So a lot of the JPs won't be able to make payments and we won't make deposits. And I think you need to give the employees their time off.
We'll give them time off, but give them on the schedule, at their scheduled time. They can take their time off on their own time. Pay them that way. I know each department can run their department how they see fit, but a lot of people in the real world don't get all these days.
Yes, they do.
Some do and some don't. I'm sorry.
I don't either. I run a daycare and we're only closed by Christmas and Thanksgiving, but
It'd be nice if you ran the county office for full time. If you don't.
We got a motion and a second.
Any other comments?
I've heard a lot of complaints about too many holidays from citizens.
All for the motion to grant all of the holidays listed except President's Day, is that what you said, Shelley?
Yes, sir.
And half a day on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, is that correct? And those two.
He also included Columbus Day.
Columbus Day, but those are, I mean, some are federal holidays, then, you know.
no federal holidays.
Or all of them federal holidays?
The only one not
Is
Wednesday,
what,
the 25th is not a federal holiday.
And I don't believe Good Friday is a federal holiday either.
You know, some people swap. I know federal holiday for our community is a religious day.
Shelby, your motion was for striking the federal holiday.
Well, if it's a federal holiday, we can't. I would rescind my motion to reflect on the day that
We've got a motion and a second. I think we need to vote on it. Motion and a second to strike President's Day and Columbus Day and the first half day for Thanksgiving. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All in favor signify by raising the right hand. One voted for. Two voted for. All opposed, raise your right hand. Against, the motion failed. So, is there another motion from anybody?
I make the motion to keep it the same as it was last year. I mean, with the 24th and the 25th of these.
Okay, that we have all of the ones that are listed down all the way through. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Judge.
Is there a second? Well, maybe we're not going to have any holidays.
13 and a half days.
We don't have a motion as a second yet to have any.
I'll second it, motion. Let's see it over with. Sit here all day.
We could on holidays that are important to a lot of people. Any discussion on the new motion and second to have all of the holidays listed on the sheet that was furnished to us? All right, we'll call for a vote. All for the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? Vote 4-1 with Shelby voting against and the rest of us voting for. Is that all you had, Luana?
Yes, I have the next two also.
All right. Take off on number 11.
Okay, number 11, Constable Precinct 2 Donald Hans had ordered some equipment in his last year's budget to be installed on his personally owned vehicle. He wants the county to pay for the equipment as well as the installation costs again on his personal vehicle. The county has never done this in the past because of the fact that we cannot have any type of insurance on that because it is installed on a personal vehicle. So therefore, if there was some type of accident, vandalism, et cetera, the county would not be able to recover any of its cost of the equipment. So I need to know if the court wants to go ahead and approve those purchases and installation costs or disapprove them.
Were the equipment included in his last year's budget?
He had a miscellaneous line item that they could come from, yes.
So the only thing, so they're on his, he probably had them installed already, so they're on his vehicle.
I have no idea if they are installed yet or not.
Have we provided those items for any of the other constables?
No, sir, we have not. We have not done that in the past due to the insurance situation.
I don't see how in the world we can furnish them one and not furnish them the other.
I'll make a motion to disapprove number 11 as written.
Second. Any further discussion? All for the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Vote 4-1 to disapprove the motion. Approve the motion, but disapprove the expenditure. And you've got item 12.
Yes, sir. Item number 12 involves the compensation of overtime and holiday pay for EMS personnel. I have contacted Mary Ann Science Thompson with TAC, our Texas Association of Counties, and she has sent me some emails as well as some regulations. She says holiday time off with pay is based on county policy. It is not covered by law. You can pay it out or not, but you want to make sure it is addressed in the policy. And currently, our overtime compensatory policy says overtime compensation shall be paid in the form of compensatory time off in accordance with the provisions of FLSA. Covered employees shall receive compensatory time off with pay at a rate of 1.5 times the amount of overtime worked. That is how the policy is stated now. When EMS has worked overtime holidays, the administrator has submitted those through payroll for compensation monetarily, not at time off. If we're going to pay EMS for those services on those hours, we need to address our policy and change it that way, or we need to only compensate them with compensatory time off as we do all other county employees.
What do we do about what we've already paid that we don't?
Mary Ann said we would need to adopt a grandfathered clause for those hours that have already been compensated.
Do we have such a clause available to us? Has anybody prepared one?
There has not been one prepared, no.
We're going to meet again next week? No.
Thursday.
Thursday. Can you have one prepared for Thursday?
Yes, sir.
If you will, please do.
The administrator's over there, he wants to address this issue.
I actually have one prepared. An actual statement from our staffing plan that covers our holiday, and we can wait to act on it at that time, but we'll this was actually what we had discussed with Judge Butler during our budget session. I think we'll find that paying them, and I understand we all want to be uniform, but we had discussed the difference in cost for paying them for working the holidays versus giving them an extra day, paying them for that day plus paying someone if they take that day to come in and actually work at a time and a half rate. I don't actually have those numbers with me because of the whole payroll change right there at the end towards the budget, but I will certainly have those numbers ready the next time we meet.
Did you not tell me that the other day that EMS is different than what law enforcement is, not the fire department type
Yes, as far as FLSA goes, EMS is not exempt from FLSA unless they are directly related to a fire department, i.e. operated by a fire department, and that the staff is trained in fire suppression or law enforcement, and that fire suppression or law enforcement is their primary job. And that falls under the Fair Labor Standards Act from the federal government.
Or have you looked into that?
No, and what I request that you do is that there is provided for a personnel director to be interviewed and put on board, and that we do something in the next meeting, take care of this until that person gets on board, and we can do a comprehensive overhaul of the personnel manual. It is in a mess, and it needs to be corrected. And Mary Ann is one of the ones that was involved in the original. So we need to address a lot of issues. Some of them are this issue itself.
What do we need to do on this from
Today,
now till,
today until next Thursday? Let's talk about what we can do as a temporary thing to add to the personnel manual that the Commissioners Court can address and adopt at that time, to address it until we get a personnel director on board, so we can do the personnel manual completely. Because this is a very...
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay, I'm saying that we need to, next Thursday, address this issue.
Put this issue on the agenda for an action item?
Yes, and address it on a temporary basis until we have a chance to visit the rewriting of the personnel manual. And at that time, we can address this issue with in that personnel manual, is my suggestion.
And my question with that is, we have a payroll, we're fixing to be paying. Our manual says we don't pay overtime or holiday pay. It says we give compensatory time. How do we handle EMS for this last pay period?
Do the personnel manual, because we have to follow those rules until we change them, and we can change them in the next Thursday.
What do we do about the ones we've already mispaid?
I think she probably is correct. We're going to have to grandfather them in and try to, go forward, not backwards.
Well,
I don't think we can take away what we've already done, as far as I'm concerned.
So we're paying people overtime, and now all of a sudden we're not going to pay them overtime?
Well,
that should have been addressed.
We haven't made any decision at this meeting yet.
I think at the budget time, I asked that question and I threw out that EMS, and they try to make it clear that EMS, everybody understood EMS would be paying overtime, because that's the way he had presented it when we went to the full-time paid system. And I guess I understood that to be that would be the deal with allowing, that'd be the only department be allowed to pay overtime.
Because they have their own policy, right?
But do you want to exempt them from this personnel manual and say them and law enforcement don't have to follow the rules?
I don't think we will do that.
I wouldn't think so either.
No, because each department runs the department how they want to.
Just a second, Mr. Reynolds.
Judge Long, is EMS eligible for comp time, or is it illegal for them to receive comp time instead of overtime pay?
I don't have a clue, and I hadn't heard anybody say.
Based on the FLSA regs, it's county policy whether they get paid or whether they get compensatory time off.
It's not mandated.
So it's not illegal at this time?
For the holidays. And we're not, we're not doubting that. We just want to get it in writing, because from the get-go, our guys didn't get anything holiday related for the whole past year.
Right.
So we're trying to get them up. We've been writing policy and putting things in place for the last year as they come up. So this is, kind of what we're trying to do. I'm with one on this one. We need to get it in writing.
Well, if somebody will put it on the agenda for the next meeting for action.
What do you want to do?
Which we're going to post today. That's our last agenda item, I believe. Is there anything else anybody has?
Turn off the mic.
I don't think it would be proper to present anything else. Do I hear a motion we resign?
I'll make a motion.
We adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say no opposition, so we're adjourned.